Shalom from Beit and thank you for joining me in the study of Parashat Beshalach. It's not the time for prayer. That will be the title of this class. And let's try to delve into it and to try to understand it. Vayomer Hashem and Moshe. Moshe and the people are basically standing in front of the Sea of Reed, or the Red Sea. And Moshe is screaming out to God. He doesn't know what to do. In front of him you have the sea. At his back the Egyptians are chasing him. He has no clue what to do. Hashem doesn't tell him what to do. So Moshe screams to God, Vayomer Hashem and Moshe. So after Moshe screamed to God, Hashem says to Moshe, Ma titzak elai? Why do you cry out to me? Why do you scream to me? Daber el bnei Israel v'Yisrael. Tell the people, move on. Move on to where? To the sea? What's wrong with me davening to you that you will create maybe a little miracle for us? I can't tell the Jewish people to go into the sea. What's the plan? And in a way, this is really a very interesting pasuk. Ma titzak elai? What would you want me to do as a leader? Hashem says to him, what do I want you to do as a leader? Just tell them to move forward. So what does it mean? How can you tell the people to do something like that? Says the Midrash in Bamidbar Rabbah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda beRabbi Ilai. So Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai says the following: Kshamdu Yisrael al hayam, when the Jewish people stood in front of the sea, hayu hashvatim medainim ele im ele. Ze omer ani yored tchila veze omer ani yored tchila. Really, this Midrash is incredible. He basically describes something that definitely does not exist in the narrative itself that we read this Shabbat. But basically says that the tribes are having a discussion. Who is going to jump to the sea first? This tribe says, I'll jump first. This says, I'll jump first. Kafatz Nachshon לתוך גלי הים וירד. So, Nachshon, the son of Aminadab from the tribe of Judah, he says, you know what, let them talk, I'm going to jump. He jumped, and he jumped into the sea. ועליו אמר דוד, הושיעני אלוקים כי באו מים עד נפש. At that moment, Nachshon was drowning, basically, and David, in the book of Psalms, many, many years later, talked about this incident, and he says that Nachshon cried out to Hashem and says, Oshieni Elokim, God, please save me, because I'm drowning. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe. So Hashem says to Moshe, Yedidi shokea bayam, my friend, my beloved, Nachshon, is drowning in the sea. V'ata mitpalel, and you daven? Daber el bnei Israel v'Yisrael. Let them, the Jewish people needs to what? To go into the sea. This is a very interesting midrash, because it describes almost three incidents at the same time. The framework is, the Jewish people are here, in front of them you have the Sea of Reed, at the back the Egyptians are chasing them, they are terrified, the entire people have no clue what to do, they look at Moshe. Moshe looks at them and he says, I don't know what to tell you because God didn't tell me what to do. So, what does Moshe do? He davens. That's one, let's call it one scenery. Second scenery is what? The tribes are talking among themselves. You know what? We need to jump. We're not going back to Egypt. We can't fight the Egyptians, so you know what? We're going to jump. So who's going to jump? First to the sea. So they have their discussion. And then there is a third picture. And in the third picture, Nachshon ben Aminadab says to himself, you know what? I don't have time for those discussions. I'm jumping. So he jumps. He jumps, nothing happened. He's drowning. He is drowning and he's davening. So just think about it, just imagine it. Moshe is here, the people is here, the tribes are having a discussion, Nachshon is jumping, he is drowning, and everyone is looking. And Moshe continues to daven. And Hashem says to Moshe, stop davening, it's not time to daven now. It's not time at the time to pray now. My beloved Nachshon, who jumped into the sea and showed tremendous faith, he doesn't need you to daven, he needs you to tell the people to imitate him, to have faith, to go into the sea despite the fact that they are seeing Nachshon drown, and he's like trying to keep his head above water. They need to go in, and only with that, I will split the sea. So what does it mean it's not a time for prayer? There is a time for prayer, but there is also a time for action. And who is teaching it us? Who is teaching it to us? Nachshon. There is time for discussion, but there is a time for action. There is a time for prayer, but there is a time for action. In the Mechilta, which is a Tanaic Midrash, which is around 2nd century, he says, "Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, ma titzak elai daber el bnei Israel v'yisau." Hashem says to Moshe, "What are you crying out to me? Go talk to the Jewish people. Let them go. Tell them to go. Let them travel into the sea." Rabbi Yoshua omer, "En liYisrael ela nisua bilvad." Rabbi Yoshua says the only way for the Jewish people to be redeemed is to go into the sea. We need to pause here and to really admire the Jewish people for a second. We all like to criticize this generation that left Egypt, and they complained and didn't have enough faith. And what they did was no less than incredible. They left the land not knowing where are they going. Moshe promised them the land that it's filled with milk and honey. They never saw even a picture of the land of Israel. Obviously, no one there, visited the land of Israel. You're talking about hundreds of years after the Jewish people already were not in the land of Israel, they were in Egypt. And they're following this Moshe Rabbeinu who basically says, God revealed himself to me, and they follow him. And now, after they left Egypt, 7 days later, they are all being challenged with basically being told to go with your wives, with your children, with your flock, with your property, whatever you have, go into the sea. How many of us will do that? It requires tremendous faith. And according to Rabbi Yoshua, that was the only way that they will experience a miracle. This is the only way they will be saved. Ein laim liYisrael ela nisua bilvad. You want to be redeemed? You need to go into the sea. Not knowing what will happen. Rabbi Eliezer אומר, אמר לו הקדוש ברוך הוא למשה, according to Rabbi Eliezer, Hashem says to Moshe, בניי שרויים בצרה. My children are now in stress. וים סוגר ושונא רודף. And there is a sea in front of them, and the enemy are chasing them. ואתה עומד ומרבה בתפילה לפניי, and you daven? That's what you do? When you see the enemy at your back, they are going to attack you and kill you, and you have the sea in front of you, you daven? No, you don't daven. מה תצעק אליי? דבר אל בני ישראל וייסעו. You need an action now. You need to act, and you need to act in an assertive, might be even an aggressive way. You need to be a leader. Not from davening. Davening is important, don't get me wrong. But davening is not leadership. Davening is for someone else to lead. And Hashem says to Moshe, this is a time for leadership. Shai אומר, יש שעה לקצר ויש שעה להאריך. Hashem says to Moshe, I'm not against davening. Obviously I'm not. And there is time that you should definitely extend your davening. It will be wonderful. But there is a time that you need to be very quick and short. אל נא רפנה לה, הרי לקצר. וישב בהר 40 יום ו40 לילה, הרי להאריך. When Miriam, Moshe's sister, spoke badly on Moshe, she got a tzarat, she got this leprosy. And when Moshe davened for her, he said something in one sentence. Kel na refana la. Please God, who is the healer of everyone, please heal and cure my sister. That's it. One sentence. There is time that you don't need to extend your davening and to daven and daven and daven. You just need to be active. And sometimes, when Moshe received the Torah, he sat in the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. So it depends. But you need to read the reality. You need to read the crowd. You need to know what is expected of you as a leader. You see your enemies chasing you, and you see that at the front there is a sea, and the people need to be saved. So one of two things. Tell them to fight the Egyptians, or tell them to go into the sea, and something will happen. Yeah, it takes tremendous courage, tremendous inspiration to tell people to go into the sea, not knowing really what to tell them. What will happen when we will go into the sea? Are we all going to drown? Are we all going to be dead? Or there is going to be a miracle that you are not telling us about? That's what the Mechilta says. As a leader, Moshe, it's not a time for prayer. Says Rashi, מה תצעק אליי? What would you call out for me? למדנו, it teaches us, שהיה משה עומד ומתפלל, Moshe was standing and davening, as we said before. אמר לו הקדוש ברוך הוא, לא עת אתה להאריך בתפילה שישראל נתונים בצרה. It's not a time to have a long davening when Am Israel is in tzara. Now, by the way, Moshe Rabbeinu is not davening for himself. He's davening for the people. He's davening to Hashem, probably, please make a miracle or something like that. And Hashem says, I'm not doing that through davening. I'm going to do it through something else. The second interpretation of Rashi is, דבר אחר, מה תצעק אליי? What are you crying out to me? עליי הדבר תלוי ולא עליך? כמו שנאמר להלן, על בניי ועל פועל ידיי תצווני. Which means, it's not about you, Moshe. It's about me. You don't really need to daven here. It's not about you. It's between me and my people. You should tell them, travel into the sea. I want to see that they follow me, not you. You are not being required, really, Moshe, to do anything. It's on me. דבר על בני ישראל וייסעו, אין להם אלא ליסע. They should just go in. שאין הים עומד בפניהם. Because the sea will not stand as an obstacle between them and redemption. כדאי זכות אבותיהם והם, so, and why? Because they have the merit of their ancestors. והם, and they themselves also has a merit. What is their merit? האמונה שהאמינו בי ויצאו לקרוא עליהם הים. Basically, Hashem says to Moshe, it's really not about you. You did a lot of things to them, and you're going to continue to do. But I want to teach the Jewish people a tremendous lesson, which is, you have the power. You don't need Moshe. Not for that. Between the merits of your ancestors and your merit of leaving Egypt and believing in me, believe in me one more time. Believe in me in going into the water, into the sea, eyes open, knowing that the waves are coming, and I'm going into the sea with my little children and with my wife and with my flock and with everything, thinking that this is my last time walking, the last time that I can breathe. Believe. In a way, it was a tremendous test to Am Israel, but a test that they could do it. If you believed in me leaving Egypt, believe in me coming into the water, entering the water. It's not about you, Moshe. Don't daven. Don't, in a way, convince the people that it's about you and you will fix it. It's not about fixing. It's about strengthening what the Jewish people has. Says the Ibn Ezra, יש אומרים כי משה צועק אל השם. So now, Ibn Ezra is going to contradict everything we said until now. So all the commentary that we saw until now basically says in this way or another that Moshe was praying and God told him, don't pray at all, or don't pray too long, or don't pray so long, or really, it's not about you, it's about the people. Says the Ibn Ezra, זה איננו נכון. This is not true. Moshe did not daven. כי כבר דיבר לו וכבדה בפרעה. Because Moshe was already told that Hashem will make Pharaoh and his chariot and his soldiers heavy, and they're going to what? They're going to be destroyed. So Moshe knew that that's not a problem. So what did he do? רק נאמר אל משה שהוא כנגד כל ישראל בעבור שצעקו בני ישראל אל השם וייסעו מעט מעט עד שיגיעו לשפת הים. So the Ibn Ezra has a totally different perspective on what was really going on there. It was not Moshe davening, it was Am Israel. But the Torah mentioned Moshe because Moshe is equal to all Am Israel, which is a bit of a stretch. In terms of saying, the Torah could have said, ויצעקו בני ישראל אל השם. And Am Israel, the children of Israel, cried out to Hashem. Why did he say Moshe? But basically, says the Ibn Ezra, Am Israel didn't know what to do. Moshe didn't tell them anything, so they start davening, which obviously reflects a bit on their spiritual level. They understood that they are in a time of suffering and they need to daven. And Hashem says to them, don't daven now. It's not a leadership lesson. It's not a lesson to Moshe as a leader. There is a time to pray and there is a time to be active. It's a lesson for the people. There is a time for prayer, and there is a time for action that requires tremendous emunah, tremendous faith in God. Which, in a way, even though it doesn't seem to be the simple understanding of the verse, but the idea that is being presented here is very insightful. In a way, Hashem wants to have a direct link to his people, and he's telling them, this connection that I have between you and me, it's not only through davening, through prayer, but it is also through action. When you go into the sea with full faith that I'll save you, in this incident, in this case, it's much more powerful than prayer. The Ramban, exactly the opposite from the Ibn Ezra, says, ורבותינו אמרו שהיה צועק, משה צועק ומתפלל והוא הנכון. Says our sages says that Moshe was davening, was praying, and that's true. Unlike the Ibn Ezra that says, ואיננו נכון, that it's not true. You can see the beauty of the disagreements between the commentators and their courage to say what they think. כי לא ידע מה יעשה. He says, no, Moshe really did not know what to do, so he davened. ואף על פי שאמר לו השם ויכבדה בפרעה, הוא לא יודע איך יתנהג. He says, it's true, I'm not going to deny that Hashem did not tell Moshe, ויכבדה בפרעה ובכל חילו, וידעו מצרים כי אני השם, that I will somehow take care of the Egyptians and Pharaoh. Yeah, Hashem told it to Moshe, but he didn't tell him how. He didn't tell him how. So Moshe did not know. כי הוא על שפת הים, והשונא רודף ומשיג, והיה מתפלל שיורנו השם דרך יבחר. Basically, the Ramban says, Moshe is here, standing here, in front of the sea. The Egyptians are chasing him. He was told by God that God will take care of the Egyptians, but he didn't tell him how. Should he now turn all the people to the left and the Egyptians will go just into the sea? Should he go into the sea and the Egyptians will chase them? He should go into the sea and God is going to strike the Egyptians before they enter the sea? He had no clue. So he davened to Hashem, please show me, please guide me, please tell me what to do. וזה טעם התצעק אליי. And that's exactly what God told him. What are you crying out to me? שהיית צריך לשאול מה תעשה, ואין לך צורך לצעוק, כי כבר הודעתיך ויכבדה בפרעה. So he says, you don't need to cry out, you just need to ask. I told you already that I'll take care of Pharaoh and his people. Don't scream, don't yell, don't cry out. You don't need to. You can ask. So what's the criticism here? What, Moshe was not polite? Moshe just cried out instead of asking? It's much more than that. It's some kind of criticism that the Ramban basically conveys to us on Moshe's leadership. Moshe, in a way, in a very, I will call it modern language, lost his cool a bit. He was overwhelmed. A leader that is overwhelmed and can't assess the reality and can't analyze it logically, but is overwhelmed by fears or emotions, he is not a good leader. And it's not a good example of leadership to others. The people look at you, always. A leader is a tough job. If you want to be a leader, or even when, in Moshe's case, he didn't want to be a leader, but at the end he became a leader. When you are there, when you lead, you need to lead. You don't really have a time off. You can't be overwhelmed. You can't reflect. You can't show. And you really can't lead if you are confused and you don't know what to do. I told you I'll take care of the Egyptians and Pharaoh, says Hashem to Moshe. You need to be sure, because if you are not sure, it will infiltrate the people's heart and they will say, oh, Moshe is not sure. We should not be sure because he is not sure. You need to basically convey calmness. The people are looking at you, they are under stress. You as a leader need to take charge and say, guys, ladies and gentlemen, God told me he will take care of the Egyptians. I know everyone is scared. Everyone is afraid. I don't even know how to tell you how he's going to take care of them. But you know what? Let me ask him. That's a totally different picture than you see a leader who is looking here left and right and screaming and cry out to Hashem, please tell me what to do and what to do, that's a very different thing than let me have a conversation with God and I'll come back to you in a few minutes. This is a very interesting commentary that the Ramban presents to us, that the narrative, by the way, did not say that Moshe screamed, but it came after. We can all understand that everyone was screaming and yelling and not knowing what to do, specifically in moments like that. You need a leader. And I think that's what's the Ramban's criticism on Moshe's leadership at that moment. Rabbi Ovadia Sforno, 16th century in Italy, says something totally different. הייתה צעקתו על שרי ישראל שהעיזו פניהם באומרם מבלי אין קברים, וחשב בשביל זה שלא ישמעו לו להיכנס בים. לפיכך אמר לו, מה תצעק עליי בזה? כי אמנם אתה חושד בכשרים. Incredible. I will translate, obviously, and explain. Before Moshe cried out to Hashem, some people came to Moshe and started basically accusing him of being the cause of their death, which means they left Egypt. Now the Egyptians are chasing them. There is a sea in front of them. So they told him, what, we don't have enough grave sites in Egypt that you need to bring us here to kill us here in the desert? That's what they told Moshe. So Moshe, when he led the people into the sea, he said, they're not going to listen to me to jump into the sea. They think I'm here to kill them. So what did he do? He cried out to Hashem. Hashem says to Moshe, don't cry out to me. And this crying out is not davening, it's complaining. Moshe cried out to Hashem in saying to him, according to the Sforno, God, they're not going to listen to me. You need to do something. I'm not davening for you that you will save us. I know you will, but those people are not going to go into the sea. They don't believe in me. They accused me to be the cause of their future death. So they're not going into the sea. Says Hashem to Moshe, Daber el bnei Yisrael v'Yisrael v'lo yamru et picha. You are becoming too suspicious. You don't believe in our people. You don't believe in my people. As a leader who don't believe in his people, maybe cannot lead. The criticism of Sforno, which is similar to the Ramban, that it's in terms of Moshe's leadership. It's not about prayer versus action. It's about your leadership. Don't come to complain to me that the people will not believe because they said whatever they said. Believe in them. When a leader loses faith in his people, he loses his role as their leader. B, Hashem says to Moshe, you don't know my people. My people are believers. They are believers, children of believers. It's something of their DNA. Yeah, so they can say all sorts of things, but deep inside, they are true believers. And therefore, lead them. How? Believe in them. Empower them. Let them know that you believe that they have the faith to go into. Tell them, Vaisau. Tell them, move in. And you will see that they are moving into the water. The Or HaChaim adds another dimension. And he says, זאת העצה היעוצה להגביר צד החסד והרחמים, דבר אל בני ישראל, והתעצמו באמונה בכל ליבם וייסעו אל הים קודם שיחלק, על סמך הביטחון, כי אני אעשה להם נס, ובאמצעות זה תתגבר הרחמים. Or HaChaim suggests something a bit mystical. He says the Jewish people were on basically the front. In front of them there is the sea, the enemy, the Egyptians are basically chasing them. God's attributes of judgment and mercy are like in a way are confronting each other. On one hand, there is a lot to be upset with the Jewish people, challenging Moshe. Not all of them left. According to one Midrash, they even took an idol with them. So, obviously the attribute of judgment, the divine attribute of judgment is definitely present there. So you need to want to increase the rachamim, you need to increase the compassionate, the attribute of mercy and compassion. So what do you need to do? When you put them on the scale and there is more judgment, so what do you need to do? You need to basically tilt the scale. So you need to increase the compassion. How do you do that? Emunah, faith. Says Hashem to Moshe, tell the people that they should reinforce the idea of faith in what they are about to do, to go into the sea not knowing that the sea is going to split, based on one thing, that they trust me, that I will make a miracle. And that will increase the attribute of mercy, and I will make a miracle. But the miracle here requires them to do something that will show that they have this tremendous faith. I think this is an incredible idea of saying that miracles do not necessarily happen because they happen, but they happen because of us. We can initiate miracles. When you have faith and you have trust that Hashem will do it for you, it can happen. And that's the Or HaChaim insight. Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch elaborates on it to some extent and says, באמת הישועה תלויה עדיין בעם. The entire salvation depends on the people. הצעד הראשון שצריך שיעשה על ידי העם. The first, the initiative must be done by the people. ועדיין עליו להיות ראוי לישועה על ידי ההוכחה המעשית שבליבו ביטחון בהשם, המביא לידי אומץ לב וזריזות מעשים ללא פחד. You need to be worthy that a miracle in such a magnitude will take place here. So you know what you need to do? You need to go into the sea. You need to show that you trust God, that He will make sure to save you. It will bring you courage and to be fearless. תחילה ייסוהם וירדו לים בלא היסוסים וחששות. They should go into the sea without any hesitations. And then Hashem יסלול, Hashem will pave the path of Yeshua, of redemption. But it starts with you. The Meshach Chochmah brings this idea that the people needs to initiate, and it's not going just to come like that, and it's not about Moshe doing it for them. He says in the psukim themselves, in the verses themselves. Rabbi Yehuda אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא למשה, Hashem says to Moshe, משה אין להם לישראל על ליסה, they need to move on. נראה מפרש, כל בני ישראל הלכו אחרי משה כצאן בבקעה אחר הרועה. He says it seems to be that the Jewish people just followed Moshe. Moshe was in the front, and the Jewish people are basically following him. Omnam bayam, but when they reached the Sea of Reed, when they reached the sea, אמר לו הקדוש ברוך הוא שייסע אחרי העם. Hashem told Moshe, you go to the back. והמה באמונתם בו ילכו בתוך הים. And they should go into the sea. Just imagine. They always followed Moshe. 7 days after Mitzrayim, they left Egypt. They are now next to the sea. They see their leader go to the back. He can just flee. He can just run away. He goes to the back, and they are supposed to do what? To go without a leader, which is in the back, to go into the sea. ובזכות הנסיעה שיבואו תוך המים בים, ייבקע להם הים. He says, that's the merit. It's not, according to the Meshach Chochmah, it requires even more. It's not only that they should go into the sea, they should do it without Moshe. And this is something that is so powerful because you can see the theme. The theme is, you people, I believe in you, Am Yisrael. Leaders are incredible and they can guide and they can lead, but there are moments in history that the people need to do it by themselves. They need to take the first step. They need to initiate. They need to initiate the change, and the change will come if they have the faith. And that's what the Meshach Chochmah says. Rav Soloveitchik suggested in a beautiful description of what was happening there. And he says, at the splitting of the Red Sea, the Creator offered the Israelites a role in their own redemption. You can see that it's not just a commandment. He is presenting to us an opportunity. He required a leap of faith, a jump into the water prior to the parting of the sea. The shock of cold water, the fear of drowning, becomes Israel's minute contribution to the miracle. At that moment, they became partners with God. And as a result, Moses and the people sang the majestic Az Yashir in gratitude, which means they earned it. God is not only ask us to be his followers, he's asking us to be his partners. He's asking us to be his partners in redemption. He's asking us to take arm and to fight in order to protect this beautiful state. He's going to help us, but we need to help ourselves and to make sure that we become his partners. Vaisau. There is time for prayer, there is time for Torah learning, there is time for everything, but there is also time for action. It does not create a contradiction. It's not mutually exclusive. There is time for everything. And sometimes at the same time there is time for everything. But when you see your enemies chasing you at the back and you have a sea in front of you, davening is great, but it will not make the miracle. The sea will not be split only with a prayer. It will be split when someone jumps in, when everyone else follows, when the leader in a way removes himself and goes to the back and tell them, believe in yourself, have faith, have trust. God will save you, but you need to do this first step. You will almost drown. The miracle will not come the minute that you touch the water. You will need to touch the water, and the water are going to cover your shoulders and your mouth and your nose, and you will start feel that you can breathe. And that moment, when you continue to walk, then the miracle will come. That's our Parashat Beshalach. And then you can sing a song. Then you can sing a song of praise to God, of Az Yashir, and that's the time that you can make commitments of building the temple later on at that song. When you prove to yourself that you have that faith, you can sing a song of redemption. Thank you.